was the chief guest there. Just a second, I am unable to, yeah. So on Thursday, 27th, we had a Rotary Seva Sanchaya by our Anne, Dr. Sapna Bandari. She spoke on causes of headache and remedies. It was well appreciated by all our Rotarian members and few other public. On Saturday, 29th, we had a webinar on how now by Mr. Gurra Sanil. He spoke on the lifestyle of snakes and which are all the venomous and which are all the non-venomous snakes, how to handle them, how to prevent snakes to maintain ecological balance. So on 29th, we had our Manasina Matu TV Talk series on various mental health issues. And this week on 29th, Mr. Loit spoke on causes of depression, signs and symptoms and treatment. So recently, all our Rotarian members had sponsored few students for their national level karate trophy competition at Gadag, and in an honor to, as a Thanksgiving ceremony, the Pravina Karate Center had called us to their school. Saturday, all Rotarians made some time to visit them, and they felt glad. And as a token of love and appreciation, they gave us this shield to our Rotary, which they won in that national level karate championship. So thanks to all the Rotarians who donated generously towards sponsoring those kids to enable them to participate in the competition. So coming week from 13th onwards, we are celebrating Children of Alcoholics Awareness Week. In this Children of Alcoholics Awareness Week, we'll be conducting various activities like public health, radio talk, TV talk, sand art, kite show, street play, painting competitions, and workshop for teachers, parents, students, and talk to our Rotary clubs and magic show, various activities throughout the week from 13th to 19th. So requesting all the Rotarians to participate in these activities as you have done in the previous years. So all through the years, Rotary has been major support in conducting the various activities for children of alcoholics. Thank you for patiently listening. Now I call upon our dynamic Zonal Lieutenant, Rotarian Amit Arvind, to give Rotary information.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, President Virupak sir. I am, since this is Peace and Fellowship Month, I thought I'll talk about Rotary Peace Fellowship Center. I'll speak for 1 minute and then I'll share a small video of Rotary Peace Fellowship along with an inspirational video. So through academic training and practice and global networking opportunities, the Rotary Peace Centers program develops the capacity of peace and development professionals to become effective catalysts of peace. The fellowships cover tuition fees, room and board, round-trip transportation, and internship and field study expenses. This program began in the year 2002. The Rotary Peace Centers have trained more than 1,500 fellows who now work in over 115 countries. Many serve as leaders in governments, NGOs, research institutions, education sector, peacekeeping and law enforcement agencies, and international organizations like the United Nations and the World Bank. The Rotary Peace Fellowship is designed for leaders with work experience in peace and development, and the fellows are committed to community and international service and the pursuit of peace. Each year, Rotary Foundation awards up to 50 fellowships for master degrees and 80 for certificate studies at premier university. I'll share a small video on how the Peace Fellows are working and their experiences. So screen is visible, right?
I'm the CEO of Red Dot
Yes.
Foundation. It's a not-for-profit in India as well as in the US. And our main work is sexual violence prevention.
Right now, I'm based in Bangkok, building up a social enterprise network, supporting smallholders farmers in moving to sustainable agriculture.
One of my passions is working with youth, providing mentorship, and drawing out the leadership and skills that so many of our young people have.
I've been involved with Aikido for over 35 years. I have been working a lot with traumatized clients, especially from abuse, from domestic violence.
I'm the founder and CEO of The Female Voice, a global hub for females to empower the world.
My work is to build bridges between communities, to make sure that communities understand each other, to create receptivity for immigration.
I work now at the Sanitation and Water for All partnership. What we do as a partnership is to really catalyze action around the water sanitation and hygiene.
Some of the skills that I took back from the Rotary Peace Fellowship program was better communication in the non-violent space.
If we can support the economic development in a very sustainable way, I believe that we have a chance for building a peace platform.
First of all, we are a family of Peace Fellows, and we see ourselves as change agents in the community.
The fellowship creates sort of this hotbed of growth and evolution for peace builders, for people advocating for social change.
The training for me, it helped because I did not just come out as somebody who understands development policy, but I also have this insight into peace and conflict resolution.
It's my personal experience that Aikido can bring peace from within, and then you can expand that to other people through your interaction.
And if you have the passion and you have the desire to make change in your community or in the world, you're the right person for this program.
Thank you. Hope this starts the right way for the Peace and Conflict Resolution Month. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Amit. That was a very apt video. I think everyone would agree with me that no one else can teach us better than being in Rotary what really Peace Fellows means. Very lately, I understood that all of us doing our best in our professions still are Peace Fellows. So till before I joined Rotary, I just thought that peace means there are no fights, no wars. Just try to maintain, no harm things. But so many other things, as video explains, what is real investment and what is returns matters a lot. Thank you, Amit, for such a wonderful Rotary information. Now I call upon Rotarian Sajani Shirali. Rotarian Sajani joined our club recently. Very warm welcome to you for the first meeting, madam. She is yes, she is a senior manager, head of experts in Manipal technology, and very interestingly, she's a good sports person. So February 20th, we are having sports meet, madam. So we would be happy to see your participation. And she has interest in trekking and exploring India. Okay. And special interests are in books. So over to Sajani, madam, to give our thought for the day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, as you rightly said, yeah, I have some interest in reading a lot of books. So I was just going through one of the book recently and found one of the line from Bhagavad Gita, which really, actually I was very inspired by that line. So I thought I should share this with the team today. It says, you have the right to work, but never to the fruit of work. You should never engage in action for the sake of reward, nor should you long for inaction. So basically, our action should be only to do the right work and not wait for the fruit. So I thought I should share this today with the team.
Oh, I don't want this anymore.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank
you. Thank you, everyone.
So we'll move on to our meeting coordinator. I request Dr. Girija to introduce today's speaker to the gathering.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Susan. Dr. Susan Dunlap is in the faculty in the Duke University in Durham, North Carolina, where she teaches pastors how to counsel people in their churches. Now, Duke University is more than 150 years. It's a very big university and is ranked among the first 5, Prasad told us recently. It's on par with Harvard University, Stanford, Princeton, and Columbia. And she has been teaching there since the last 25 years. She's the director of the Masters in Divinity and Masters in Social Work. It's a dual degree program. She herself is a PhD from the Princeton Theological Seminary. She is my nephew's wife. Next slide, Prashant. I just wanted to show you where Duke University is because for us, it's all there. It's somewhere, can you make it a little bigger? It's somewhere below New York, above Florida. That's the place where Duke University is there. And that is a famous cathedral. I think when you say Duke University, the first thing you see is that picture of that fair thing. I think it's more than 150 years old. Anyway, Susan will tell us. Now, Prasad is my nephew's wife. And Dr. Prasad, that's a letter written by Arigaf thanking him for the $1,000 he gave us for LN4. You may remember he spontaneously donated $1,000 to our LN4 camp when he came to visit my father when he was unwell in January 2020. And later he gave tabs to students during Prashant's time when our club initiated giving tabs to students, poor students. Even before the Rotary District thought of it, Prashant and his team thought of it and gave tabs, nearly about 30 very nice, expensive tabs to all the students. At that time, he also donated for it. This is a picture was taken at that .NET, Manipal.NET, they had a program, and he was there, and that is Prasad in 28 Jan 2020. Thank you, Prashant. Susan not only teaches at the university, but is also serves as a pastor at many churches. And she volunteers as chaplain at an emergency shelter for people without homes. This work led her to write the book Shelter Theology, The Religious Lives of People Without Homes. Understanding different ways of thinking with dialogue paves the ways for peace. That is another thing, I think, for February, peace and conflict, unless we understand. She is also the author of 2 books, Counseling Depressed Women. I think Dr. Virupaksha will be interested in that. And for Caring Cultures, how congregations respond to the sick. Congregations respond to the sick. Now, Dr. Susan is also an animal lover. She has lots of dogs and horses. Her daughter rides horses at home, and she's an avid gardener. She's a very warm person, and have a lovely daughter called Anna. Presenting to you our beautiful Susan, Dr. Susan Dunlap.
Thank you. Such a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. I've heard so much about Manipal and the Rotarians. I'm just, as I said, I look forward to visiting very much.
Ask if I have share permission on the screen.
Does Prasad have share permission?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, so you just put this here and go up, down with these arrows.
Okay.
Or these arrows.
All right. He's teaching me how to use his computer. So you can see my book there on the share screen. Okay, very good. So yeah, so I wrote this book because I was very moved by the what I discovered as the religious faith among people at home without homes. So I have a little background. You all already saw a map of where I live. Durham has about 260,000 people, so it's not a huge city, but it is a city. And as you saw, I'm a professor at Duke University, and in particular, I teach at the Divinity School. What happened was I had been teaching there for a number of years, and I was teaching the arts of how to care for people, how to give counseling, how to comfort the bereaved, how to help people with their decision-making and so forth. And I realized that I had not been actually a practitioner for a long time. And I wanted to go back and practice the art of caring that I was teaching students. And so I decided to go work and volunteer among Durham's poorest of the poor. And those are generally people who are homeless, who have no place to live. I'll tell you a little bit about homelessness in America. On any one day in the US, there are about 1 million people who are either sleeping outside or in their cars or in bushes or an abandoned building or on the sidewalk or in an emergency shelter on any one day. So of course that means annually there are many more millions of people who experience homelessness. And so why are there homeless people in the US? Well, there are national reasons. One is our poverty rate. We have about 10% of the country lives in poverty. And to give you an idea about what that means, poverty is defined as an income of $24,000 a year for a family of 4. So in my city, that would mean well over half of your income went towards rent. The people I have focused on are people who live in extreme poverty, which is half of that rate. So people who live on $12,000 a year. And the average rent in my city for a one-bedroom apartment is $14,000 a year. So that's one of the reasons that people are poor, is because they simply don't have enough money for housing. And there's not an adequate supply of affordable housing for people in that income level. So poverty, the lack of affordable housing, and then finally the lack of jobs. There are the jobs for low-skilled people with a low level of education are few and far between. And the jobs that you can get, say in a McDonald's or something, they don't come anywhere close to providing an income that would supply enough money for rent. So there are national reasons about why we have homelessness in the US. And then there are individual reasons. About a third of the people who are homeless in the US have a severe mental illness, such as schizophrenia, or depression, or bipolar disorder. And the US does not have a good system for caring for our mentally ill. And so often they end up on the streets without a place to live. Another individual reason why people are homeless is because they have an addiction to drugs or alcohol. And in fact, about 2/3 of the people who are homeless are addicted to a drug such as cocaine or heroin, or they're alcoholics. So all of those factors hinder people's ability to find the income and stability necessary for steady housing. And then finally, many people who are homeless have a prison record. And again, it's hard to find a job that makes enough money for a home, to be able to afford a place to live. So those are some of the characteristics of people who are homeless, and it gives an explanation for why they're homeless. Another factor that I think is important to understand people who don't have homes, there's such thing as what has been called the institutional circuit. And this, of course, is a result of our inadequate systems for responding to people, particularly people who are mentally ill. So here, this is a typical cycle for someone who has a mental illness. So let's say they're living outside and they are sleeping on a park bench where they're not supposed to sleep, or they engage in some petty theft and they're arrested and they are sent to jail, spend some time in jail. And once their time is up at the jail, they are released to a mental hospital where they can have their mental illness treated. Their time is up at the mental hospital and they're released to a homeless shelter. And they stay at the homeless shelter for a while, and then their mental illness symptoms become unmanageable at the shelter, and they're not allowed to stay there anymore. And so they go outside. They begin living outside again. So this cycle among various institutions is what often happens with people who are homeless. One interesting fact about the breakdown of our mental health system is that in the US, the largest provider of mental health services is the prison system. So prisons respond to people with mental illness to a greater degree than our hospitals, than our mental hospitals, than our any private institutions. So that's quite an indictment of our mental health system. So I decided that I wanted to work among the very poorest people in Durham. And Dr. Girija asked me to say why I chose to do that. And I was thinking about it. And I think my family has always felt a strong calling to respond to people who are poor, who are living in poverty. And it's just sort of part of my family to think that that's our responsibility to respond in a compassionate way. This is a picture of my homeless shelter of where I live. There are two buildings. The building that you see is the building where people are fed, and the building that you can't see to the left is where people sleep. It's called Urban Ministries of Durham. And of course, there are cots for the men to sleep in and a big sort of dorm room, and a smaller room for women, dorm room. There are about a fifth as many women as there are men there. And a big cafeteria where people take meals. We serve 3 meals a day. There's also a food pantry where people can come once a month to receive groceries. And this is for anyone in Durham who is poor and needs food. They can come in, whether they're homeless or not. We also have a clothing closet where people can come and get clothes. And of course, this institution relies on many volunteers to help serve the meals and organize the clothes and so forth. And this happens to be my father, who is volunteering making sandwiches for people. So one of the things that I learned while I was at the shelter is that homelessness is hard. It's difficult. It causes a great deal of strain in your life to not have a place to live. If you're living in the bushes, for example, or in your car, you're subject to the elements. It can be freezing cold or snowing, or you're in the rain. It's humiliating to not have a place to live. So people live with a great deal of shame and embarrassment for being homeless. It's lonely. Oftentimes, people go for a long period of time without interacting with any family or any friends. It's dangerous because, especially for women, to be living outside by yourself. And there's also a degree of violence among people who are desperately poor. Sometimes people who are living outside have all of their possessions stolen, everything, their IDs, their clothes, any money that they might have, it's just all stolen. And of course, that's a very difficult situation to be in. And one of the things that I realized is that people need a spiritual base. Let me say that differently. To have spirituality can be an important means of surviving the difficulties of homelessness. So these are all of the things that I am including in the definition of spirituality. Hope, the belief that your life can get better at some point in the future. Dignity, I believe that's another spiritual matter, to believe that you are loved. And in the case of spirituality, you're loved by a divine power greater than you are. Purpose. People need a life purpose, something to give their life to, a belief that their life is valuable because of what it contributes to family or friends or to a higher calling. And finally, friendships. A religious life can bring a community and friends. And I believe that people who are homeless can benefit greatly from having these elements as part of a spiritual life. And the reason I say that is because there are some and even in my circle of friends who say that we should not be focusing on spiritual life among people who are very poor. We should be focusing on getting them housing and getting them jobs and tending to concrete things. And my response is, yes, of course, we have to be doing that. But in order to take advantage of these services and in order to persevere through the difficult process of getting out of poverty, you need to have hope. You need to have a degree of dignity and a purpose, and I think friendships. So I think that's what a spiritual life adds. Now, there are other kinds of spiritual care, other care that's different from what I give, and some people who offer spiritual care to people who are very poor do so with a purpose of persuasion, persuading people to convert to their own religion. Okay. Other people give spiritual care in the form of a bargain, like, we will help you, we will feed you, we will help you find a home if you listen to my sermons. So it's kind of a bargain. And then another kind of spiritual care in a homeless shelter prescribes a certain kind of spirituality. Pray like we do. Use this book. Think this way like we do. Believe the things that we do. So I rejected all of those approaches as I was designing the program of spiritual care in my church, in the homeless shelter. So this is our publicity. It says, light a candle, say a prayer. Everyone is welcome. Whether you are Baptist, Pentecostal, Methodist, Holiness, Presbyterian, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, or anything else, or from no tradition at all, or haven't decided yet, you are invited to come and be with us at our prayer service. And the only structure is the invitation to come forward and light a candle and say a prayer. Very simple, nothing else required. And this, of course, is voluntary. It's not required that people go. Voluntary and non-sectarian, and people came. They, at the largest, at the time when we had the largest attendance, we would have about 20 people. Now during COVID, our services are greatly reduced and we have about 5. But at our largest, we had about 20 people coming into the prayer service. So I became very interested in what their religious beliefs were. In other words, what did they believe that sustained them in this period of extreme difficulty and homelessness? And I described a few beliefs that I discerned from what they would say in the prayer service. Also, I interviewed about 40 people and just listened to conversations, which is how I discerned what the predominant beliefs. So the primary belief is that God will provide what they need, that they just have to trust God and what they need will be provided. Okay. So an example of that is I a woman came to my prayer service, and she looked sort of disheveled, and she told me that she had slept outside in her car all night. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, what got you through the night?" And I thought she would say something like, the remembering my family, or the desire to care for my children again. But she just said one word. She said, God. God got her through the night. So it's this deep belief that God is trustworthy and will provide what you need. Another practice is the practice of gratitude. Even in the midst of dire deprivation, people express gratitude for what they have. And if nothing else, they say, I thank God for waking me up this morning. And so it's a form of spirituality deeply rooted in gratitude. And this became very clear at one point in the prayer service. A man got up and he went forward to the front of the room to light a candle and to say his prayer. And he asked us to pray for his friend who was in the hospital because she had been shot 5 times in the head. And my thought, I mean, I just gasped. I couldn't imagine that happening, being shot 5 times in the head. And I was just mute and knowing I couldn't figure out how to respond. But around the room, I heard, thank you, God. Oh, God is good. Praise God. And that confused me enormously. Why are they praising God upon hearing that this woman was shot in the head 5 times? And then I learned it's because they were grateful that she was still alive. Okay. So I found that very significant, that their first response was gratitude. It wasn't horror or fear, it was gratefulness. So gratitude is a central part of their spiritual lives. They also have a well-developed belief in the devil, that evil in the world is caused by Satan, the devil. Cruelty, poverty, the reason people are poor, the reason people act cruelly or badly is because the devil is alive in them. This could be understood as a way to avoid responsibility for your own bad behavior. And I understand that. But I also think when they attribute, say, their relapse into addiction, when they attribute that to the devil, it's a way of not having to experience the pain of shame again. To be homeless is to experience an enormous amount of shame. And so when they say, well, it was the devil and not me, it's a way to deflect some of those painful feelings of shame. Then finally, everyone believes that God has a purpose for their lives, and that this hardship, this period of homelessness, this period of living in a homeless shelter, or one man who'd been in and out of prison for 25 years, all of those difficulties were training him for a purpose that God had in mind for him, and that was to reach out to youth, to teach youth how to live a life differently than his. So these are the core beliefs that sustain homeless people through their often brutal lives. And I found them very interesting. In the US, there's terrible stereotypes of the poor. That they're lazy, They're all drug addicts. They refuse to work. They ignore their children. Education is not important to them. And they live basically immoral lives. So I'm going to tell you about Joyce and Larry. These are not their names, and I'm covering their faces just to protect their confidentiality. Joyce came to the shelter. She did abuse drugs. She drank a lot and she used a lot of drugs. She also sold herself on the streets in order to get money. She had been in and out of homeless shelters for years. Okay. But so some of those stereotypes are true. But also true of Joyce is that she worked a lot. She had a lot of jobs, and she loved her work with older people, bathing them, dressing them, helping them eat, and so forth. That's not the stereotype of a person that's poor. She's very religious. She went to church services regularly. She prayed and read her Bible regularly. She'd been with the same man for 18 years. And she was very, very attentive to her grandchildren. She says she loved watching documentaries. And so she and her grandson would watch documentaries. So that's, those are all departures from this stereotype of a homeless woman. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book, is because I want to say homeless people are imperfect, like all of us, but they're not only characterized by deep flaws. They are complicated people with strengths and weaknesses, like all of us. Larry is one of the kindest, gentlest people that I know. He's always inquiring after my family, my daughter. He says gentle and kind things to other people who are going through difficult times. He loves to read books. He had 2 years of college, so he has a degree of education. He was an athlete when he was in college, but he is deeply addicted to drugs. He lives under a freeway. If the freeway is here on a bridge, he lives just in a little crevice up here under the freeway. And he's lived there for a long time. And he gets money by holding a sign out at the stoplight and asking people for money. And over the time that I've known him, he's been in several drug rehabilitation programs, and he cannot stick with them. So again, his qualities live up to some of the stereotypes of homeless people, but not to others. And I wanted to portray his life as exemplary of sort of the complicated lives of people without homes. So how have I changed in my course of working with people? Well, as I have watched how people have depended on God and practiced their faith under circumstances, under dire, difficult, dangerous circumstances of deprivation, it has made my faith in God stronger. They have served as models for me for depending on God to live. I also learned that leaving poverty is hard. I had lived under the misconception that if I were ever poor, I would just work hard. I would choose nice friends. I would live very modestly, and I would be able to get out of poverty. Well, I see that doesn't work. It's much more complicated than that to try to leave poverty in the U.S. And then this third is a little bit more nebulous. but this is how I describe it. If I were walking down the street, before I worked at the shelter, if I had seen someone who was sort of hunched over, maybe with these sort of ragged clothes on, looked like they hadn't bathed in a long time, looking very out of place, I probably would have just looked away. But now, when I walk down the street and I see a figure like that out of the corner of my eye, I think, oh, is that somebody I know? I wonder if that's Bob. I wonder if he had a chance to get to the doctor this week. Or I wonder if that's Nancy. I wonder if her grandbaby was born. So my universe, the circle of people who might be a friend of mine, has expanded greatly. And I think that's an important kind of growth that I've experienced. This is a quote from a man who is a very well read in the US. He's a Harvard educated lawyer, and he went to Alabama to offer free services, free legal services for very poor people in Alabama. And he's become quite well known. And he wrote a book. And this is a quote from a talk that he gave. We cannot create justice without getting close to places where justices prevail. We have to get proximate. So that phrase, get proximate, has become something very important to me. So those of us who are interested in addressing poverty, addressing unjust systems that make and keep people poor, we cannot do it just from a distance. We have to draw near to the people who are actually suffering from those circumstances and make all of our work to change the world based on that firsthand knowledge of having been in relationships with people who are very, very poor. So with my book and summary, what I hope to accomplish is to create portraits of people without homes as people of faith, even theologians who know how to think in complex ways about religion and life. I wanted to make the point that people who are very, very poor need spiritual care in order to survive and in order to engage in the very difficult journey of trying to leave poverty. And then finally, it was a plea for proximity, a plea for people to leave their side of town, leave the place where they feel comfortable, and go to the other side of town where people are poor and form relationships and expand their world in that way. So that is, it's a little bit about my work. I would love to hear any responses, any questions, maybe comparisons to circumstances in India. I'd love to hear from you.
Stop share.
Stop share. Okay, let's see. Did it stop?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Susan.
Of course, you're welcome.
You're providing, or it's a long stay shelters?
Is it a long-stay shelter or is it?
Good question. It's an emergency shelter, so people can stay up to 2 months.
Cool.
And the shelter provides services, social workers, to help people find a job, help people find a place to live, maybe get reunited with their families.
How is it funded?
It's fun. A lot of public funds, but the largest portion of funds are from the faith communities in Durham, mostly churches.
Do you face difficulty of sending people even beyond 2 months?
Do I face difficulty?
Very common scene, homeless people we find here is again relocating them to different place, so they become long stay sort of cases. So do you also face similar problems?
Of course, absolutely. People don't want to leave, but then a lot of people do want to leave because life in a dorm, living on a cot, is not a wonderful life. But they do have a rule. They have to leave after 2 months. And another feature of life in a homeless shelter is they have to be out at by 9 a.m. and they can't come back until 8 p.m. So it's not like they can, lie down on their bed and sleep all day. They expect them to be out, looking for a job or trying to improve their lives. Mm-hmm.
Do you also put them back to work, those of them who can find a job, or you can help them find job, or it's majorly the spiritual care?
I don't try to find them jobs or try to find them a place to live, because there are other people that do that. And I realized that everyone else that they work with at the shelter has an agenda for them. We want you to stop using drugs. You need to get a job. You need to be doing all these things. And so I found that my role was to simply accept them as they are and give them compassion and nurture. And that was going to be my role. It's not, my role isn't enough, but that's what I feel like I want to do.
Do you also treat the comorbidities?
We don't now. We refer them out to a substance abuse program or to a place to get mental health care. There's actually a medical clinic on the site, so they can get emergency medical care on the site. But no, we're not a comprehensive place that can do everything. Yeah.
Susan, a question from Hyderabad. I'm Prasad's relative, Ram from Hyderabad. We met. Hi.
Ram, good to hear from you.
I didn't know that he was here.
Hi. So the question, Susan, is these shelters, I know there are quite a few around, is the primary aim of a shelter is to just provide succor for, let's say, a month or two? It's like a bridge to hopefully a life? Or is there a deeper sort of strategy there of trying to get people out of their misery through whatever means?
Absolutely the second strategy. For a while, homeless shelters were, as you described in your first description, they were just, oh my gosh, we have to get these people off the street. We have to get a roof over their heads. And eventually people realized, no, we need to help them be independent with an independent income or connected up to government services. I mean, there are a number of disabled people. We help people get connected to disability services, but it's very much focused on rehabilitation, helping people live a life off the streets. Yeah, that's a good question. And as I said, people can only stay 2 months at the shelter.
Much as it sounds heartless, yes, but I think it's important to teach these people to come back and stand on their feet, especially in a country like America, where you probably have opportunities. In India, it might be different challenges in terms of rehabilitation from what we have seen in the centers that we support. And the danger is you're just, I don't know, you'll be spawning a whole lot of dependent people because they don't have too many options. Thanks, Susan.
Sure. Yeah. That's right. The goal is independence.
In fact, one of the things which we've been trying to work or talk to, the government has got a major initiative in terms of skilling, as they call it. But no, that's fine. This the skilling initiative at a country level is more towards healthy people who do not have the right education or the right skills. But there's a whole mass of people who are really indigent, who are sick, who are disabled, who don't know anything better. And I think we need to get into some kind of a nationwide skilling strategy to, I don't know what we can teach, maybe even teach them to be a street side hawker, give them micro loans. But there has to be a thought process. So there are a couple of institutions here where we've been sort of throwing these ideas around. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think that the developing skills is very important, and we have ways to help them get into a high school program. We also have a college program that we try to help people get into. Yeah, that's so important. But my focus again is it's sort of, I mean, again, as I said, to do all that, to get your high school degree if you're 45 years old, that's hard. And it takes, again, a feeling of hope, a feeling that you're a person worth investing in. And that's where I work, is on sort of that deeper level of motivation and dignity and so forth.
That's equally important, I guess. That's also very important.
We need all of it.
Nutrition for the soul.
Thanks, Ram. Nice to see you. Well, put up your
Nice
video
to
so
hear
that
you or see
everybody
me.
can
Hi.
see you. That is my cousin, Dr. Virupaksha.
Yes, madam. Hello, sir.
Hi.
Yes, I think there he is.
Thanks that you joined us.
I was slightly late. I'm sorry about that, but I didn't miss Susan's lecture.
Thank you. Thank you. You are in Hyderabad, sir.
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
A lot of people say Ram and Prasad look alike.
Girja, can I say something? Girja?
Yes, of course, only. Tell. Yeah.
Susan, your lecture really resonated with me because I'm not poor, but I'm quarantined for 1 week and I was feeling very sad. So you made me remember God and gratitude. And I have a cousin who's been 40 years in prison in the US and I've helped many drug addicts where I live in Manipal. And I'm very grateful to the opportunity for just listening to you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for adding that. I'm so sorry for it's your cousin that's in prison?
Yeah, he was not an American citizen. He was 20. He's in drugs. So when I do now, because of COVID, we can do a video call with him. And that's the best part of my whole life, doing a video call with my cousin who never complains, who's good behavior 40 years and never complains about anything. And my son who lives in US, he enables these video calls. So I see both my son and my cousin 2 times a month. And that's my highlight of my life. And I really resonated with your talk. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
thank you.
My husband is Ram also, by the way.
Okay.
He's a gynecologist. Susan. And her husband is an anesthetist.
Okay.
Here's my Ram, Susan.
Hello.
Hi, Susan. I enjoyed your talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you could be here. Appreciate your listening.
Thank you.
Namaste, sir. Dr. Ram.
Dr. Ram Kumar. Dr. Virupaksha, you know, no, Ram?
Yes, he had come to our club, madam.
Yeah. Correct.
Smile.
Yeah. Right. Nice to see all of you. Thank you, Susan. It was really nice.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It was really nice. You could feel your goodness in your speech. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
No.
You're
Don't you
welcome.
feel scared sometimes to go and talk to those people?
Am I scared? I have to say, I think I was at the beginning, but I'm certainly not anymore. Not at all. I've never recently, no, in the last 10 years, I haven't felt scared. I just don't. Yeah. A lot of people are. A lot of people are very reluctant to go there.
Yes.
But I guess I just am familiar with most people. Most people are just kind of broken down people and not aggressively violent. Yeah.
That's your goodness, Susan, and I really appreciate that. Really nice.
Oh.
I don't know, the people there, are they different from the people here, or they're all the same? Because when I talk to the people who are like beggars and all, I don't find like that much of that.
Yeah.
You don't find what I'm talking about?
No, I don't find.
We don't feel an empathy. I mean, we feel sad for them, but I don't know whether I can sort of really help and know what to do for them, try to bring them up and all that. And that I think I have to get to that level. I'm not reached that level.
Never reached that level. Okay. It's for me, it's life-changing. And life in Durham is just so segregated. I mean, we're segregated by race, by income. And it's, I just sort of wanted to get to know other people in my town. And yeah. I'll talk to you in a year and see what you've been doing.
Well, I think Susan has to come to Manipal and get into.
Yes, she certainly has to. Yes.
Yes.
Welcome, Susan.
I think the other challenge that we have in India, it is all so pervasive all around you. You do tend to, unfortunately, get inured to it over a period of time. And that's the danger of not getting thick-skinned about it and being sensitive about it. Because if everyone can help 5 people, and that's eminently doable, I think we'll all script a new, hopefully, path.
Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful idea, a wonderful plan. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, actually, when we'll be.
Thank you very much.
When we are talking to parents, when they come with a lot of behavioral problems, conduct problems of their children, we try to educate them that children who need the love most present in the most unloving ways. So, but at the same time, taking it from adults who are not ready to work, not feel education is important, or rationalizing their behavior, and you are still able to love them, probably it is something interesting to us.
Oh, you find that interesting?
Really, means here are people who don't want to work, they are lazy, and they don't want to learn, and they just want your shelter and some comfort in life, and you are still ready to give them.
Yes. Yeah, I just to make it clear, if I wasn't clear before, all that thing about being lazy and they don't want to work, that's the stereotype, and it's not true. I don't want to suggest that homeless people are all lazy at all. That a lot of them want to work, but they just can't find a job that pays enough for them to be able to afford housing. Yeah.
I mean, to maintain that consistency of not distracting from the original thought, it's so difficult to maintain that consistency of being there for them, despite
Absolutely.
knowing their stereotypes.
Well, it's something I've done it 3 mornings a week since 1907.
Not 1907.
Hey, sorry, 2007. 2007. And so it's just part of my life. I mean, ask Prasad. I every 3 days a week I go over there. So
yeah, she's amazing.
oh,
Both of you.
Well, let me put it this way. I must be a very compassionate person if I'm with Prasad after all these years, right?
Oh, no!
Very forgiving.
Well said, Susan.
So mean, so mean. Look.
Good. Thank you. Any more questions or clarifications from our Rotarians? Okay.
Thanks, Susan. Hope to see you in Hyderabad sometime soon.
I will be there. I'll be there. I'm overdue a trip to India.
Yeah,
Thank
Vimal and Mohan are missing you.
I have to say I feel very honored by this invitation to talk to you because I feel like I want to honor the lives of the people that I know, and the more that I can spread the truth of their lives, the better. So I just appreciate this invitation so much.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay.
Dr. Susan, do you find any small percentage of people who are not even interested in your theology? They are atheists, and no matter how you want to help them, want to take up your prayer services?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I mean, that gives me a chance to make a clarification. What I'm describing is a small percentage of the people at the shelter who come to the prayer services, and the vast majority aren't interested at all. And but I was just interested in among the people who are religious, what did they think? What were their beliefs? What role did religion play in their life? Yeah. Oh yeah, the vast majority of people aren't interested in me or the prayer service at all. There. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. A small last clarification. Did you ever find people who are having home but still living with the feeling of not belonging there, and are also sort of homeless? They are in the homes just for with the fear of being homeless.
That's a very, very, very good question. You mean, well, let's see, I can take your question in two directions. Are you saying that they're afraid that they will be kicked out of their houses?
They're dependent.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a very precarious way to live. The fear of homelessness and the fear of being rejected by your family. And what I thought you were saying was some people who have places to live, they're so alienated from the people that they live with that they feel lonely. They feel rejected, and that happens too. It's another kind of homelessness, I think. It's another kind of homelessness.
Yes.
Yes, good question.
A large number of old age people, they stay alone. At least these homeless people will have some company of people.
That's true. That's true.
They will have people like you who can talk to you at least 3 times a week. But large number of population, old age, they stay alone in very big houses. There is no problem with shelter, but no people around.
That's right. It's heartbreaking that their family doesn't pay attention to them. They absolutely. That's a good point. Excuse me.
Dr. Girija, want to say something?
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan. Really nice.
You're welcome.
Prasad.
Thanks. We will disconnect. See y'all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Prashant. So
Yes,
I thank Dr. Girija too for bringing us Dr. Susan, such a wonderful speaker for tonight. And Prasad sir, thank you for your cooperation and being there with us throughout Rotary years. Thanks Ramnarayan sir for joining all over from Hyderabad. Thank you Dr. Shubhagita for being there. Dr. Vani, thank you. And thank you all my Rotarian friends. We'll rise up for national anthem. Prashant will help me out playing national anthem.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the national anthem being sung by Rotary leaders.
Sing
Meeting adjourned.
See you.
Bye. See ya.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Very nice.